A narcissist's world does not just fall apart when you leave. It collapses from inside out, whether they admit it or not, whether they post smiling selfies or pretend to move on quickly, their reality splits open in ways even they do not fully understand. Because when a narcissist loses their primary source of supply, you, grade A supply, the one they were anchored to, the one who fed them the reflection they so desperately needed, they lose the core of their survival system. I'm not just talking about their psychological devastation, I'm talking about biological, emotional, and spiritual devastation. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Welcome to my channel. The topic for today's episode is 5 things that happen to a narcissist's body when you leave them. In this episode, we're going to go beyond psychology, so stay until the very end. When you were there in that narcissist's life, you weren't just a partner, you were their lifeline, the warmth in their winter, the mirror that gave their mask meaning. And once you leave, it is not just their mind that collapses, as I said, their body follows. Slowly, quietly, yet destructively. These are not surface level effects that I'm talking about. These are deep physiological responses to the absence of the very person who kept their world stitched together. Let's go deep into what begins to happen physically when a narcissist loses the one person who mattered more than anyone else. Number 1. Their face starts aging fast, like the mask is rotting without an audience. You may hear people say, "Oh, they look different now," or "there is something off about their face." And it is not in your imagination, it is real. When you were in their life, they wore a persona, didn't they? And that persona was polished, energetic, youthful, and controlled. It gave their nervous system a rush. Every smirk, every smoldering look, every charming gaze was curated to keep you hooked. You were the camera they were performing for. But when you are gone, that mask loses its purpose. There is no longer an audience to impress, and without the regular emotional stimulation that came from controlling you, their body shifts into depletion mode. Cortisol levels stay elevated from the stress, and collagen production starts to slow down. The tension that once gave their expressions intensity now turns into premature lines and fatigue. The sparkle in their eyes fades into a dull gaze. Their jaw may appear more clenched. Their skin loses elasticity, and their whole aura feels heavier than ever. They age because they are no longer being reflected back as someone powerful, desirable, or superior. You did all of that. Their mask didn't just slip, it began to rot. And the true face underneath is the one they cannot tolerate or maintain. They may try to compensate. How? By more grooming, more gym, time, obsessive diets, cosmetic treatments, but nothing works the way it used to, because it was never about how they looked. It was about who they were performing for. And without your energy feeding the illusion, time catches up with them all at once. Number 2, they look at their reflection longer but do not recognize who is looking back. This one hits on a deeply spiritual level. Narcissists do not have a stable sense of self, you know it. They only know themselves through the eyes of others. That is why the mirror was never just a mirror. It was a portal through which they tried to find themselves. And when you were with them, they had something to hold on to. Your admiration, your fear of them, your confusion, your love, all of that helped them build an identity, or should I say, hold on to the idea of having a stable identity. But when you are no longer around to reflect that version back, they go searching for it in their reflection. They stare longer, hoping to see someone powerful or desired, but all they see is a stranger, someone unfamiliar, someone older, someone empty. And this is where the spiritual trap becomes visible. Narcissists often talk about soulmates, don't they? And twin flames, especially when they sense you slipping away. They use these spiritual ideas to pull you back, to keep you invested. But here is what no one tells you. They were not lying. Not entirely. They said you were the light to their darkness, the day to their night, the beginning to their end, and in their own twisted way, they were telling the truth. You were the warmth to their coldness, the only real connection they ever felt, even if they abused it. When you leave, it's like their soul leaves with you. They start moving through life like a ghost, not because they miss you in a romantic sense, but because they no longer feel real without you. You were the foundation they built their identity on. And now, when they look in the mirror, there is no identity left, just a hollow frame of who they once pretended to be. This does not apply to all narcissists, though. Some bounce from one supply to another without pause. They are shallow, detached, and constantly distracted. But I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones who attached themselves to you like a vine on the wall. The ones who were strong only because you were standing there to hold them up. The ones who fall to the floor once the wall is gone. Number 3, their pupils stay dilated longer, addicted to the chaos that no longer exists. A narcissist's nervous system is not wired for peace. It is wired for chaos. Their sense of aliveness comes from emotional turbulence. They thrive in drama, control, argument, seduction, manipulation, and so on. All of these create spikes in adrenaline and dopamine. It gives them a high, a thrill. It's their drug. While you were in their life, they kept that supply going by constantly creating emotional highs and lows. They pushed your buttons, then offered comfort, high highs, low lows. They caused fear, then offered safety. They created instability, then sold you the illusion of resolution. It was a cycle of chaos that gave their body a biochemical rush. Now that you're gone, there is silence, and that silence becomes unbearable. Their body starts craving the old hit, but it doesn't come even from the new sources of supply. Their pupils stay wider for longer periods, a subtle sign that their body is still stuck in hyperarousal. We call them black or demonic eyes. They are wide for danger even though there is no threat present. You were the danger and the safety in one. Now, they are left with neither, just a body addicted to the high of manipulating someone who no longer responds. This can lead to restlessness, insomnia, pacing, eye twitching, and a general look of being on edge all the time. Some may try to recreate the chaos elsewhere, but it never hits the same because no one else was ever as emotionally invested as you were. And they know it very well. This is how they get trauma bonded with you in a very crazy, disgusting, and twisted way. Number 4, their hands shake subtly. Why? Because there is so much rage and it has no place to go. Rage is one of the narcissist's most sacred tools, not necessarily screaming or violence, but the deeper, simmering type. The rage that lives in their body like a constant threat. It keeps bubbling. While you were in their life, they released it on you in small jabs, in cold silence, in condescending tones, in emotional outbursts, in cruel games. That release gave their nervous system some kind of relief. But now there is no one to lash out at, no one who will absorb the impact of their hatred, their resentment, and their insecurity. So the rage stays inside. It builds up in their muscles, their bones, their hands, and eventually the tension shows. Their hands start trembling. They crack their knuckles more. They fidget. They press their fingers together, trying to squeeze the storm out through their skin. You were the person who unconsciously absorbed their emotional sewage. Now they are left to sit in it alone. The rage doesn't disappear, it gets trapped. And a trapped emotion, eventually spills into the physical realm. They may develop chronic tension, migraines, digestive issues, or even insomnia. Not because they are experiencing some kind of heartbreak, but because their emotional regulator, you, is no longer available. Number 5, their voice turns weaker. They lose the thrill of controlling your reactions, and that's why. If you have ever noticed a narcissist's voice after leaving, you will realize it's not consistent. Sometimes it's charming, sometimes intimidating, sometimes seductive, sometimes pitiful, but it's always calculated. They speak not to communicate, but to dominate. Every word, every tone, every silence is crafted to evoke a reaction from you. Your reaction gave them a sense of purpose. The look in your eyes, the tremble in your breath, the tears on your cheeks, that was their fuel, sadistic supply. They spoke to provoke, to disorient, to guilt, and to seduce. Their voice was a weapon, and you were the battlefield. Now you're gone, and their voice has nowhere to land. No more feedback loop, no more reactions, just words that fall into silence. And so the voice changes. It becomes unsure, flat, or unconvincing. Even if they talk louder or faster, it doesn't have the same bite because it was never about what they said. It was about who was listening. Some narcissists go quiet altogether. They retreat into isolation or they talk to others. But you will notice they repeat the same stories. They rehearse your breakup. They rant about being wronged. But the voice lacks conviction because their favorite audience left the stage. And without you, there is no play left to perform. These physical changes are the signs of something really deep. A soul starving, a body collapsing under the weight of emotional vacancy, a system that was designed to run on your energy and does not know how to generate its own. They may never say it, never admit it. They may pretend they are doing fine, but their body tells the truth. You were the warmth they stole, the identity they shaped themselves around, the light that made them feel visible. And now they're simply fading. So if you have ever wondered whether you leaving the narcissist impacted them, the answer is an absolute yes. And not just emotionally, but biologically, spiritually, and physically. You did not just leave their life, you pulled the plug on their illusion. And for the first time, they're left to sit in their own skin. Alone, powerless, exposed, and decaying. That was it for today's episode. Let me know what your experiences are and if you have noticed any of these signs in the narcissist who you left. Please share your experiences in the comments. With that, let's bring this one to an end. I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.